All right. Welcome back to AFG Update. Today we're here with Brian Simon, one of our tenured advisors.
Sorry, can I?
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
more comfortable on that side. Do you want to
Okay.
just get up and we'll switch and I'll ask the questions? And
So I was on the receiving side a couple weeks ago whenever Mike and I did this. And it was different. One, I sat in that chair for the first time, and then Mike was asking me the questions. I'm like, I like being the moderator so much better.
Yeah.
But it was a fun like role reversal of kind of what I've done for now, I don't even know, 10 or 15 of these
Yeah.
to be on in the other chair. So it's fun. So thanks for joining us today. Um, really interesting path on how you got to us. A career that many people don't think would translate into financial services,
Yeah.
but it seems to have worked really well for our firm.
Yeah.
So maybe it is like that's the segue.
Yeah.
So
Who knew? I was
why don't
getting that journalism degree.
it is
One day I'm going to be a financial advisor.
So why don't you share with everybody kind of what you did prior to joining AFG and then what that transformation looked like coming into the
So,
financial world?
well, as you would expect, Mike, I got a journalism degree. I started working in television. I was a sports anchor in a little town in Kansas. And then after 3 years of doing that, I moved to Fort Myers and I was a sports anchor in Fort Myers and Naples. And, just the natural progression is you
Right.
become a financial. No, my first financial advice I ever gave was to my wife.
Okay.
That she had put some money away in an IRA and she went to the bank because, like, what do? You
Right.
get money, you go to the bank. And she put money in this IRA and a CD. And she was like 25. And I said, they've got this new thing called a Roth IRA. Maybe we should do that. And maybe we should invest it, instead of just putting it in CDs. And so that was my first financial advice. But, when I did my own investing and that kind of stuff, but we did get to a point where I knew I was in a little over my skis. Like there were just things I didn't know about.
Right.
And at that point, we were introduced to an advisor. One of our friends introduced us to an advisor at AFG.
Okay.
And I loved it. Like I loved the process. I loved learning about it. I asked a million questions. And so I started thinking about getting out of the business and trying other things. And my advisor said, I think you'd be good at this. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you've been doing this since you were out of college. I said, I know enough. Like, I speak the language,
Right.
but I don't know all the stuff that you know. And he said, well, look, you own stocks and mutual funds and your wife's had a pension. You have a 401k. You guys have a house. You own life insurance, disability insurance. You got a mortgage. Okay, I guess I know a little bit more than I thought. And he said, look, all that stuff is just tools. And if you can understand how to put those things together and explain them, to a client, then you can be a good planner. And so I kind of dipped my toe in the water. This was 2004. I was still working in television, but kind of doing this on the side.
Right.
And then the following year, I said, you know what, I think, I think I can do this. And 21 years later, it's cross my fingers. It's still working.
Yeah. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I think it'll work out. And it's weird. I did television for 14 years. I mean, that's what I always thought I was going to do. And
Right.
I've been doing this for 21
Yeah.
years.
So now 50% more time doing this than even being on TV, which is crazy.
Yeah. I didn't think about the stats, but
Right.
yeah, you're right. I just knew it was more.
Right.
So you're right. 7 divided 14. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, because I think that this is really important. I think this is why a lot of people that have come from TV do well. Obviously, the communication skills is huge. You're telling, in your world, you were talking about sports to thousands of viewers and really being relatable and entertaining and things like that. And I think that's a huge part of our business. What other skills carried over from your job in TV to being an advisor?
I think just being genuinely interested. So here's the funny thing. When I got into television to do sports, I always thought it was going to be about covering the big things, that I was interested in: baseball, football, the Super Bowl, go into that stuff. And what I found I enjoyed more was meeting people, doing feature stories on interesting people, unique things. Like that personal connection was really important to me.
Right.
In fact, one of the guys, early in my career, when we talked about, going to ESPN or doing something like that, he said, look, that stuff's really cool, but when you're the local guy, you have a different relationship with people. Like you're their guy.
Right.
And I've always thought about that. And so that personal connection, um, even though on television like this,
Right.
You're broadcasting to a lot of people, but that personal connection was really, really important to me. And I think that's one thing that carries over. And then the other thing is just being genuinely interested in, um, how things work. And I always thought, one of the reasons I got into the business, or one of the things that intrigued me about getting into the business, is I lived on a street where you had people who were all kinds of different careers. You had, some wives who, I should say, spouses who worked, and some spouses who didn't work and stayed at home and raised the kids. And people made a lot of money and people made not as much money, and everybody lived on the same street.
Right.
Like, how does that happen? Like just genuine curiosity. Like, okay, how do they do that?
Right.
I know how we run our finances. I don't know how everybody else runs there. So I was just genuinely interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if you're a journalist too, you just have to have some genuine curiosity about how stuff works and how people do their thing. And I think that's carried over as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people don't really take into account. I mean, obviously we're going out, we're meeting people, we're learning about them, but just the genuine interest. Like I did a call with Stacy just before we did this, and we joke, like we're like fascinated with these stories that we hear from people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, between you, me, her, I mean, there's probably almost 50 years of doing this collectively. And every single day I come in and I'm like, what kind of crazy stuff am I going to hear today? Like, what am I going to learn? Like, what am I going to laugh about?
Yeah.
Just the characters that we meet. And again, like, not that everybody's like this super animated over the top person, but it's like you gain a genuine like interest in these people's stories and their kids and their like what they do for work and how they built their business.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the really cool services that we provide is just like we actually like we care about these people. So there's kind of an old adage that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yep.
And I think that's really like the first thing that gets people in the door is just, okay, what is the attractiveness of coming to talk to us? What is the kind of the pitch of coming in, and how are people really being presented with what we are providing to them? And I mean, what do you think are the other main, like the top things that we provide to clients that make us a differentiating firm?
I think, having somebody that you can talk through stuff with. There are difficult conversations.
Yeah.
We've all had them. There are difficult conversations where you kind of feel like you're the referee between two spouses, and and that stuff just like, it has to happen. There has to be some kind of impetus to talk about stuff. I think, for people to come in, you got to make these decisions.
Right.
There are things that there are things that are obvious. Like, everybody wants to plan for retirement, and everybody's going to plan for their kids to go to college, and you'll probably do something along those lines. But there's a lot of stuff people don't think about.
Right.
That they need to have those conversations, and there's a lot of things that it's just easier to kind of put off, and not talk to somebody, or you read some stuff online. But that doesn't mean you're necessarily sharing it with your spouse or whoever's helping you make decisions. So I think it's important to talk through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And to have somebody maybe point out things to you that either are obvious and you're ignoring them, or just aren't obvious and you never thought about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we do.
I think one of the cool things about our firm is we're very much relationship oriented. We get the vast majority of our clients through either personal relationships or through referrals.
Yep.
And one of the big things is we'll get introduced to a new client, and and the first question I ask them, I'm like, well, okay, what did your friend tell you? Or like, what prompted you to take this? And I think that the talk of finance is far less taboo than it used to be. Because again, like you were talking about before, people living on the same neighborhood, and you kind of have an idea of what people make or what they spend, and you're like, how is everybody kind of in the same place? I think a lot of people are starting to talk about this stuff now. And what are you getting from your clients, or whenever you're getting referrals? What are people saying about you and your business on why they're coming in to meet you? Thank you for joining us today. Through our shorts and through our full-length content, we try to put out the most relevant material for our viewers, for potential advisors, for people in the industry, or just anybody with financial interest in general. If anything resonated today that you want more information on, go ahead and click the link below me. Click on Talk to a Financial Professional, and one of our professional advisors will reach out to you and have a one-on-one conversation with your personal situation. Now back to the podcast.
You know, you're a nice guy.
Right.
You know, I need to take care of this stuff. You know, I don't like, I don't want my clients trying to sell me.
Right.
You know, like
I think that's really important. Like,
you know,
that's important.
Brian's awesome. He helped me do this, and that. Well,
Yeah,
it may be totally different.
Right. Everybody has a unique circumstance.
Yeah. So I don't want them coming in like with an idea of you know, exactly what I'm supposed to do. But I'll tell you this story. So, and I'll go back to TV too. So when you're on TV for a while, you kind of lose the perspective of what it's like to just be a viewer, right? Like I don't watch the news the same way that somebody who's just sitting
right.
at home
That makes perfect sense. Right.
Making dinner or whatever they're doing. Like you lose that perspective.
Yeah. You know how the sausage is made. So now you're like, viewing it as,
And so by the same token, you know, coming into this business, I'd been a client for 5 years. So I knew exactly what it was like to sit on the other side of the table. But after 20 years, you do tend to lose a little bit of that perspective. And, you know, we do training meetings every week at AFG. And so, you know, you kind of, you know, you see things from the advisor perspective, right? And so this one time, I asked a friend of mine, I said, what's the one thing that you really wish somebody could help you do? And he said, I'd like somebody to show me how to save more money. And I was like, that's perfect.
Right.
Like that's what we do. And that's a more recent development. That's in the last, say, 5 years.
Yeah.
That we've really worked on, you know, wealth building accounts and how people are running their cash flow to help them save more money. That is a differentiator for AFG. It's a differentiator in my practice. I mean, it's something I've applied personally. I always thought we were pretty good savers, but this has ramped that up for us personally, and I've seen it with clients. It's amazing.
It's crazy. I had a conversation, it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, with a client, and we went through kind of that exact conversation. And they're like, okay, I get it. It makes sense. And they're like, why does it work? And I'm like, it's the psychology of it.
Yeah. Behavioral economics.
I go, it's just pure behavior. Yeah. And I go, there's nothing saying that it's going to force you to do this or that anything is going to happen. But I go, I promise you, we've seen it with thousands of clients at this point.
Yeah.
If you do this, it's going to work, and you're going to come back in 6 months or 12 months and be like, oh, wow, I have this much saved up.
Yeah.
And when people have more cash flow, when they have more free cash flow, they can make decisions that are so much easier to implement the things that they want to do, rather than talking about the hypothetical dollars that they might have in a year or two that they never get to.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a million ideas. You know, we can help you do a lot of stuff,
right?
But you know, you got to have the money
until the money's there
to do it. And we always joke. I mean, and this is true. Like it's funny, but it's true that you talk to somebody who's making, you know, really, really good living.
Right.
And you know, you know what their earnings are, and you're like, okay, so, you know, we have some ideas, like how much do you want to put away? And they're like, no, I think I can do $500 a month. And you're like, oh my God, like I know what you make. You should be able to do that in your sleep. But it's different when you have that conversation, like, hey, you have too much money in this account.
Right.
What do you want to do with it? Like, we know what's there because it's there.
Because it's there.
You know?
And I think that's the biggest thing, is like the paradigm shift of what is expected or what is the hypothetical in the future versus, okay, now this is the reality. Yeah. Now the money's here. Now you've actually accomplished step one. What is step two? Talk to us a little bit about a client that's kind of gone through that transformation, where it started as a vision, it became a reality because they kind of made the money appear, and then how you deployed it and started to accomplish some of these goals that they wanted to achieve.
So, you know, I have a client that, you know, husband and wife, and we got him into this program, just, you know, putting a wealth building account together. They, you know, had some ideas of things that they wanted to do, but they had some uncertainty. And we put them on this program, and really it was just kind of dipping their toes in the water. Like they weren't full bore um, into it, but they were able to, save some money, every paycheck. And I remember after a year, like they were so happy
Right.
about their results. And they said to me, over this past year, we've done everything we wanted to do. Like we've been on a financial diet,
Right.
or something.
Well,
But
I think to kind of come in and talk about this, people think when they do this, they're like drastically cutting back in lifestyle,
no,
and it's almost the opposite.
yeah,
People are more empowered to spend the money that we send them to do the things that they want to do.
yeah, yeah. And you're right. I mean, it's just that kind of behavioral
Right.
finance or behavioral economics. Like the world is set up to take our money from us.
Yes.
Right. Every bill I pay is somehow automated, and most of them, are like they just take the money from my account. A couple of them I like set it up to go out on this, but most of them are they take the money. I pay an extra $40 a month, and this drives me nuts. I pay an extra $40 a month, which is like 15% of my phone bill, because if they want to connect it directly to my bank account, as opposed to just pay it every month, it's still automatic, but on a credit card, and it's like $40 a month, a lot of money, and it still ticks me off.
Right.
That they want that direct connection. The world is set up to do that because they know it's more likely to get paid. You're less likely to stop.
Right.
And so all we're doing with the wealth building accounts is trying to take that psychology and make it work for our clients. Make it so that they're the ones automatically getting paid. And it takes a decision to spend a little extra money as opposed to taking a decision about how much more can we afford to save.
Right. Yeah. It's the unconscious saving versus the unconscious spending.
Yeah.
Which is where they lived before. So as clients start to do this, because again, like we talked about, it's a behavioral thing. Mindset changes.
Yep.
As people start to become better savers, how do their goals and wants change, and how do the outcomes ultimately change?
I mean, they're just able to do more stuff. Things that they had in mind that they'd like to do one day, but they weren't quite sure how that was going to happen. That now that the money's there, or they understand their cash flow better, they know they can do it, and then they go out and do it.
Yeah,
and I've seen that.
And I think, one of the things we were joking around about before we jumped on here was like the unknown of people that just you know what's going to happen. Your life is already figured out, and this is exactly the way that it plays out. Clients that have extra money are far more prepared for the unknown. And talk a little bit about that, because it's something that we see in our world, like on a weekly basis. Just things don't go the way they're supposed to go, or things go like really well in a way that you wouldn't think that they would go.
Yeah. My advisor, John, when I got into the business, he said, there's two kinds of people: the people that have way more than they ever thought they were going to have, and people that don't have as much as they thought they were going to have.
Right.
But the thing I'll say about the unknown is, like, I don't know exactly how things are going to play out in the market, or in anything. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, and I don't trust anyone who says they do. Right. I mean, there's a reason that we say past performance is not indicative of future returns.
Right.
Because past performance does not predict future returns. That's why they say that.
Right.
You don't know what's going to happen, and so you can plan for what you think your life is going to be like, how long you're going to work. That almost is never right.
No.
People lose their jobs sooner than they thought they were going to, or people don't want to stop when they thought they were going to stop. I have a friend who he retired at like 40, and then he said it was like being the kid that was out of school when all your friends were still in school.
Was that good or bad?
Bad. Like, it was great,
Yeah.
That he did it. He set out to do it, and he accomplished that. And then he was like, yeah, and he went back to work.
Right.
Like, and listen, I'd rather go back to work because I want to, not because I have to. Right. So you're just, when you're doing planning, you are, you're giving people options.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
that's what it's about.
I think that's one of the biggest things that people just have no clue about before they meet somebody like us. It's this is what my parents did, or this is kind of what we're set out to do, and this is the path. And it's so far from that being the case. It's if you do the planning, you've now got this like choose your own adventure book of, okay, if you get laid off, okay, do you want to go back to work or do you not want to?
Yep.
Do you want to go into early retirement? If you had enough money, do you want to have a second home? Do you want to go on more vacations? And people just think of this like linear world of what has to be because it's what's been done. And very small changes can drastically change the course of clients' lives.
Yeah. There's a writer, finance writer named Morgan Housel, and he says, what has happened to you is like 0.0000001 of human history, and it's 80% of how you think the world works.
Right.
Like we don't know. We only know what we've seen or what happened to our friends or what happened to our parents.
Right.
And again, I mean, maybe that's part of the advantage of working with an advisor. We see more people and know more about their finances, but also, we're thinking about the way things might go that maybe you're just not thinking of.
Yeah. I mean, it's the old chart is like you've got a big circle and it's like, okay, this is all the stuff you know.
Yep.
This is all the stuff you don't know.
Yep.
And then there's this wide world of things that you don't know that you don't know.
Unknown unknowns, right?
And that's really where by implementing somebody like us or just doing research on your own or consulting with people that are in different fields, it's impossible to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
So if you're going and you're an expert in automotives or if you're an expert in sports, how could you possibly be an expert in finance or in medicine or whatever these other things are? It's like that's a reason that they.
Well, I'm now an expert in both, just so you know.
Right? Yeah. You stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yeah. No, I know sports. People ask me like, "What's the difference?" Now, do you still follow sports? I'm like, yeah, but I only follow the sports I want to now.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the funny things, I mean, our kind of banter between Cleveland and Kansas City sports both being now not so good. I mean, the Chiefs obviously have
the Chiefs are good.
The Cleveland.
I wish one day, God willing, your Browns. I really want this for you.
I would
just not now, but I do want this.
I would take the Guardians over the Browns personally, just because I'm a diehard baseball fan.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, we can't figure it out. We can't. Our pitchers are getting in trouble, and there's just all kinds of stuff going on now.
I'm sorry.
So, talking about,
but I like the name, like Guardians. Like,
yeah, I mean the Guardians, the Indians nostalgic, but being part of Guardian.
But you're part of Guardian.
Part of Guardian. It's like
as soon as I saw this, I was going to Mike and I was like, "Hey, look, we're the Guardians." Sorry, go ahead.
No. So we talk about having options and things being predicting the future and how this is impossible. How do you help people stay calm in uncertain times? Because that's really, I mean, even now, like the market is really good.
Yeah.
But I think people are like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we're cautiously optimistic, but what happens next? How do we prepare? And I feel like throughout the 15 years that I've done this, it's like, it's kind of always like this.
Yeah.
It's either like
all times are uncertain, Mike.
Right. It's either like
all
really
times.
bad and it's going to get good, or it's really good and it's going to get bad, or people are just like always like.
A career in financial services is about freedom and relationships, both for you and the clients you serve. By building intentional, authentic connections with people, we not only create an environment where advisors can succeed, but also puts you in control of your future. Financial success looks different to everyone, and it's more about the process than the numbers. If you are someone that is looking to make a difference in your life and the people closest to you, go to the website below and schedule a conversation today. Back to the podcast.
Not walking on eggshells, but trying to figure out what's next and keeping clients staying the course and calm during this, I think, is really important. What do you do with clients to kind of have that happen?
Yeah, and I'll tell you too that this has been, my growth as an advisor. I mean, it's hard to learn. I've learned this over 21 years, not to overreact and to try to understand how things go, how markets change. It is really hard as the advisor because people come to you for your knowledge and they trust in you. And so when things go, the wrong way, markets go down or whatever, like I feel that.
Right.
It's worse for me as an advisor than it is, for me as just like somebody who has their money in the market or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that people come to me and they trust me.
Yeah.
I hate it. So that dealing with that uncertainty, I've lived through the real estate explosion here in Southwest Florida.
Right.
I've a quick funny story about that. So one of the reasons we went to an advisor first is we were trying to decide whether to buy a house, and how much house should we afford and whatever. Right. And we ended up buying a house, and it was right before the property values just exploded. And I remember at the first time we met with our advisor, he said, "Look, how much are you paying for rent? You're not sure you're going to stay in Southwest Florida." At that time, we weren't sure. And he's like, whatever you spend on rent, that's the best money you ever spent, And so we rented, and then we decided, what, we are going to stay. And so then we went back and we bought a house. And I remember thinking, we bought our house, the value went up immediately by like 25% or 50% within a year. And I was thinking, gosh, my advisor, can't believe he ever told us not to buy a house.
Right.
This is easy money. Like, he's an idiot. And then a couple of years later,
right.
the value went to about half of what we paid for it.
Right.
I was like, that guy's a genius.
Right.
I've lived through that. I've lived through the market collapse of 2008. That was really, really hard.
Yeah.
The market came back really strong in 2009 and 10, and then 11. We weren't really sure. We've seen the explosion in the late 2000s. And like you said, it's like whenever things are bad, you got to think, all right, it's going to turn around and be good. And whenever things are good, you're just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Right.
And, and we hit all-time highs, in 2021, and then 22 was down, and then 23, it was right back up, and 24 is right back up. And you're kind of going, all right, like it can't stay like this forever. So how do you help clients with that? Well, first of all, you have to understand that you have to have a belief that, number one, markets generally go up over time.
Right.
Given the time frame, that's the way that works. Number two, you cannot depend on a particular number. You don't get to go in and pick 8% or 10% off the shelf. It doesn't work that way. When we go through talking about the wealth building accounts, one of the things we always show clients is we say that rate of return is not as important as the rate of savings.
Right.
And rate of return is far more powerful when you have more money saved.
Right.
So you don't get to pick that.
Right.
So you kind of have to have a belief that things, how you have to understand how things work. You have to have a belief that things, the market does generally go up over the sufficient time frame.
Right.
And you have to be prepared for, well, what if it doesn't?
Right.
And again, it just goes back to how do you put capital on your balance sheet in a place that you have access? In the popular media, you'll always hear, emergency fund, which is super important, right? Yeah. But I always say it's an emergency and opportunity fund.
Absolutely.
Because when things get bad, that may be an opportunity to, get a way higher rate of return if you have the capability of the money on the balance sheet or the ability to borrow it to go out and invest in.
Yeah, if we went back in time, or if we started right now, and we polled our clients and said, if we could go back 36 months, how many of you wish you had more money saved and invested in the market? Yeah. Every one of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been three of the best years in the market that we've seen in a long time. Every single one of our clients would have said, I would have done whatever I could to get more money to infuse into the market, and I would have done it. We weren't telling them 3 years ago, like, save less. Like, we were like, yeah, save as much as you can, but it's now like whenever we can go back, and that needs to be the mindset for clients at all times, is like, we need to have a plan. We need to stick to that rate of savings because when rate of return comes in, and it may be 2-3 years in a row that are just explosion, we need to take advantage of it because this may not come again in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yep.
And I think it's really important that clients are on board with what that is and have a plan in place. Brian, this has been awesome. It's been a really fun half hour or so. I think we've really shared a lot of good insights with the viewers.
They can make that decision.
Yeah, right. It's
We've
always
shared a lot of insights. If they're good or not, you tell us, right?
But is there anything that you want to let them know, how they can contact you, how they can set an appointment with you, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you can call me, 239-345-5867 is my compliance approved phone and text line. Email me, brian.simon@afgfl.com. Always happy to meet new people, talk to people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for sharing your time with us
Thanks,
today.
man. It was fun.
Yeah.
This podcast is intended for general public use and is for informational purposes only. Material discussed is meant for general informational purposes only and is not to be construed as a recommendation or advice. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Mike and Brian, and registered representative and financial advisor at Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, securities products and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA, SIPC, financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, NY. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Alliance Financial Group is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Mike CA insurance license 0M21715. AR insurance license 15838330. Brian CA insurance license 0G10296. 8232798.1 expires 827.